Go.
All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be speaking with an individual who is set for quite the trilogy fight at BKFC 73. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and that's a sentiment shared by bare knuckle fans the world over. It goes down on April the 26th, and Jimmy Sweeney will be stepping in there against Rico Franco, and we've got some hardware on the line, the European welterweight strap specifically, and great having Rico Franco on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. How's it going, man?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing great, man. I'm just wondering about this fight because in the intro I mentioned, I mean, such a massive fight, just with it being a rubber match and everything, and how great the first two fights were. Like, when did the idea of this trilogy bout kind of get on your radar? Because some interesting factors here with this being Jimmy Sweeney's BKFC debut. Like, was it a surprise that this fight kind of came your way? Can you kind of talk about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it for the first fight, for Jimmy's debut, but it was always in the pipeline, ready to happen. Obviously, it's a one apiece. I beat him in the first fight. He beat me in the rematch, and it was always meant to be, and it was always meant to happen. Obviously, 6 years ago that. So we've both come on a long way since then. I've been in the BKFC now, 4 fights in, just fought for the world title. Jimmy's not been on this show before, so he's gonna be introduced to the BKFC scene. But yeah, it was always meant to happen. But I didn't expect it to happen this soon, and it makes sense. It's for the European title, so it makes sense for both of us. Jimmy wants to get up there straight away. He's been one of the best in the game for a while. So a lot of people are saying, Jimmy not deserve this shot, but he's been a world champion for a long time, and he's done a lot of rounds. He's the most active, probably bare knuckle fighter on the planet. He's had about 30 fights, so not many people's had that many fights. Originally I was meant to fight on Italy card against some Italian pro boxer. He couldn't get his license signed off because he would lose his license, get stripped of his belts. Jimmy was matched on the same on the Italy card as well, and we're both talking weeks before we got matched, and was actually planning on doing a bit of sparring together, doing a bit of training because we've previously done training together, some sparring about a year and a half ago. And my opponent fell through, Jimmy's opponent fell through, and Gabriel just said, "Look, why don't you both fight for the European title?" If it weren't for the European title, it probably wouldn't have been worth it. But obviously now there's a belt involved. It's gonna be a big fight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and there's so many interesting dimensions you outlined there, just like the distance between the first two fights and both of you, you're really upping your level as bare knuckle fighters, but then you also have that localized connection now of having trained together and having those kind of insights. So it would seem like there's a few interesting things at play that could really inform this fight. Like, not only have you both, like I said, grown tremendously, but now you have this certain level of direct insight into what each other's doing by virtue of sparring with one another and all that. I feel like it could reflect interestingly in a fight, especially of this magnitude.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've shared the ring twice, so we kind of know how each other work, and we've sparred twice in an 8 round sparring, as well. So we've done a lot of rounds together. We kind of know how each other work, but that was over a year ago. Um, I've made obviously Jimmy's going to make improvements since then, and I've made massive improvements since then. And I didn't have my boxing coach when I fought Jimmy twice. I was still training jiu-jitsu at the time. I wasn't even. I was taking it serious, but I was still training MMA at the time. And obviously, since I had surgery, that was it. I just got a boxing coach, full boxing now. So yeah, the improvements are massive, and I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, and so many things to talk about with this fight, but you did kind of touch on the last outing there against Austin Trout and everything like that. Like, what was the whole experience like getting to, compete for the welterweight championship and just, being on that Spain card and just, I guess, what were the major takeaways from that whole experience there?
Yeah, I learned a lot from that last fight. I mean, obviously it didn't go in my favour, but I felt if we had another round, it would have been in my favour. But it was very close. I mean, a lot of people underestimated me, and they didn't expect me to box against a boxer. He's an elite boxer at the highest level, pound for pound, one of the best in the game. And I wanted to prove I was at that level as well. So I tried to box him for 3 rounds, and it didn't. It was just coming inches short. There's levels to the boxing game, and he's been boxing since he was a kid. I've just been MMA street fighting since I was a kid. So for me to box Austin Trout for 3 rounds and not look out of place, it was just coming short on a few things, and it was hard to engage with. He's a very clever fighter, and for me, I was happy with that. My coach was happy, and the plan was just to try and stick it on him for 2 rounds after that, and that ended up going in my favour. And working the clinch, I felt like I got the better of just ploughing forward. I was headbutting a few shots coming in, but that's just my style, and I enjoyed it. And that whole Marbella experience was unbelievable, and I've learned a massive lot, and I've gained a lot of experience just from that show. And yeah, it was overwhelming. It was a pleasure to be on the card, and this Italy card is going to be the same.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on that as well, but I feel like I would also be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on this fight, just considering where you're at in the division and the connectivity to Trout, because he's readying to defend his welterweight title against Carlos Trinidad Snake at BKFC Dubai. Like, what do you see, I guess, transpiring with that fight, or I guess just general thoughts on that contest?
Yeah, I think obviously Austin's ready to go again. I think is it next Saturday or something like that. So yeah, Trinidad Snake. I've watched him a few times. I don't really rate him, to be fair. I don't think Austin will get out of second gear. I think he'll make it easy work. I don't really like that Trinidad guy anyway. He made a few personal comments to me, so he's a bit of a muppet, and I'd love to take him out one day, but I think it'll be easy work. But he's gonna walk through him. I don't think he'll come out of second gear. He might not even finish. Trout's not a finisher. I think Trout just likes to do the rounds and just outbox people and make them look silly. So, I think that's what he'll do. And to be fair, I'd love to obviously win this European title. I'd love to get that chance again. But I'll work my way up. I'm not in a rush. When the time's right, it'll be there again. And my goal is just to win that world title one day. Even if it's in welterweight or lightweight, I can drop down to 70 kilo, no problem at all.
That's kind of curious. I feel like I don't know about this Carlos Trinidad Snake situation. Like, if you're, interested in divulging the comments, like, what did he say about you that struck a certain chord with you?
I did. I took a screenshot, but it was basically just obviously trying to get up there quick, and it was making some comments, and there was a comment about my illness on my bag, on my stomach, basically just taking the piss out of me, my illness and disease on my stomachs, which is quite personal to me. Another BKFC fighter, Connor Tierney, did the same, and I approached him, and he apologised in the end, but it just gets a bit. There's no need for these personal comments for people that are struggling, and I'm trying to help other people out that are struggling, and these people just take advantage, and it's just a bit disrespectful. I mean, I don't mind banter. I love banter. I don't mind if he calls me a cunt or swears, but personal digs like that. I don't forget stuff like that. So when I do see him, he will get a slap. Muppet.
So is that a future fight potentially, or even just like one of those like on-site kind of things? Like, it maybe doesn't even have to transpire in the ring, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm not really interested in fight. I mean, unless he does prove he's a champion, and he beats Austin Trout, which could happen. It's bare knuckle boxing. It's 50-50. One punch can change the game, so you can't underestimate anyone. But I just don't think he's on that level. It don't really interest me, that fight, either. I don't think he's not a big enough name, and I just want some big names, big fights, and just to prove I am one of the best. And I believe I still am. I believe I can still beat Austin Trout.
Yeah, well, I mean, this fight could definitely serve to, just reinsert you right back into that mix, no doubt. And something I did want to kind of touch on too, because there was, some mention of this being such a big card in Italy coming up. And I saw there was a press conference that took place, and it looked like Conor McGregor was interacting with yourself and Jimmy Sweeney and whatnot. It looked like there was some connectivity there. Like, what was that whole experience like interacting with McGregor out at the BKFC Italy press conference?
Yeah, it was overwhelming. Good experience. The whole experience of that press conference leading up. It's just building the fight up. But obviously Connor, I love his energy. I love his character, and he's seen me in Marbella, and I got to know him out there, and he's a good guy, and I just love the energy being around him, and he shares that with all the fighters, and everyone who steps in that ring, Connor's got respect for, and that's what it's about, and just everyone's just bouncing off each other with energy in that press conference, and it was great. It was a great weekend, and I just can't wait to get out there and do it again.
Yeah, and you referenced, getting to kind of also link up with him in Marbella. It looked like your nan also got to meet McGregor, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I mean, on the last day before we left, we stayed there a few more days, and we went out for some food at a restaurant. And I didn't realize, but Connor's yacht was just straight outside, and he was on his push bike on top, and I kind of just messaged him saying I sent him a video on Instagram, and he obviously he liked it, and he come down straight away, and he come straight up to us and just like talking about the fight, how impressed he was. He was overwhelmed over the fight, and got some nice comments off him, and he ended up meeting all my family and friends. He paid for all our food, and yeah, what a nice guy. I didn't need to do that. He gets pestered a lot every day, and just to show that support to the bare knuckle fighters, it's nice. It's nice to see it, and obviously my nan got to give him a little kiss as well.
Yeah, just cool to see the scale of just, how the sport really by proxy is developing. Like obviously it's something BKFC is individually doing, but just something to serve the sport of bare knuckle boxing overall. It just seems like a great landscape for that. And I guess I was kind of curious even to get your thoughts on a relatively recent fight that transpired, the rematch with LT Nelson and James Canelli, who you both, or you have competitive history with both, rather. So I guess like, did you catch any wind of that in terms of even like the result or seeing the fight or anything like that?
I see. Yeah, I was interested in watching the fight, but I was away. I had a fight show myself. I've got a boxing gym myself, so I had fighters fighting. So, time I got back, I seen the results, seen a few highlights, and yeah, definitely going to try and catch up on the replay because two very tough men going at it in the triangle, and obviously Nelson come out on top, which is the first one was very close. It was a draw, obviously, and this rematch just proved Nelson just got the upper hand, and he turned up and performed, and it just won Canelli's night. But Canelli's one tough guy, and yeah, in that triangle it suits them very much. But I feel if Nelson come to BKFC, I'd just jab his head off. I feel like I'd 100% be confident. Don't get me wrong, he reminds me of Caleb Barris. He'll just keep on coming. And in the BKFC ring, it's a lot bigger. And when I was in that triangle with him, obviously I was a little bit ill at the time, but that's no excuse. I was boxing well, and obviously you just get caught in them corners, and it's not my style in that triangle. Obviously they want to see brawling, they just want to see a slugfest where I want to box, I want to pick my shots, I want to move my feet, I don't want to show me skills where you can't really do that in the triangle. It's not for me. But if he come over, I'd love to rematch him, 100%. Any of them.
Yeah, I mean, he seems kind of keen on that too, because I was talking to him and got some of his thoughts on your fight coming up against Sweeney and everything like that. And he was saying, I know it's not a realistic proposition per se, but it would be cool to see like even crossover kind of fights or just whatever's representative of like the very best in the world fighting each other in these dream match sort of scenarios and whatnot. So interesting you say that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if there was a crossover, it would just be on. It would have to figure out if it's going to be in the circle or is it going to be in the triangle. Obviously, similar rules, but different. Obviously, there's 3 minute rounds in the triangle, 2 minute rounds, faster pace in the circle. So obviously, you're both allowed to clinch. Um, but yeah, if anyone wants it, they can have it in the circle. And BKFC is the one for me. I mean, next time, if I did ever go in the triangle, I'd have to change my style up, and I'd just adapt. I'd have to just adapt my style and just bite down and swing down, but it's just not my style.
Yeah, it just shows like how much it can change the complexion of the fight for sure, just like the competitive space that it exists within. And everything like that. So yeah, definitely, get where you're coming from in that regard. But yeah, it seems like you've been able to get in some great work heading into this fight. I saw you at Almond Boxing Club with Danny Mitchell, and both of you preparing for fights coming up. He's readying for that Manchester card, which is in a few days as of this recording. So it seems like some great work had leading into this one.
Yeah, definitely. I was there this morning doing some sparring. Not with Danny. He's obviously cutting weight now, but I've got two coaches fighting this Saturday. I've got Dex Spellman making his debut. He was a former professional boxer. He had a massive career fighting some massive names like Linda Martha, Anthony Yard. He's making his debut. And Danny Mitchell's obviously making his second fight in BKFC. So training with both these guys. Deck is my boxing coach. Danny's the MMA kind of coach with the small gloves. And I think having both of the mindsets and their knowledge is just passing down to me and just making me a better fighter.
And I saw something that was kind of interesting because, I mean, even in this conversation, there's been some cursory mentions of like jujitsu and MMA. I saw a post a few weeks ago, or I guess a few months ago at this point, positing a potential return to MMA for you, like if that would be something you're interested in this calendar year. And I saw you had included the tag for Gamebred FC, which would intimate that you were maybe wanting some bare knuckle MMA. Like, is that something that you have mapped out in a certain sense for this year, or would, I guess, winning this European title kind of take precedence and then maybe just do the bare knuckle boxing thereafter? I just thought that was interesting to see.
Yeah, I just like to keep people guessing, and obviously after fights, I like to keep busy and get straight back in there. I just didn't hear anything for months, so for me, I'm just like I just like to know what I'm doing, and obviously I didn't hear anything for months, and then this fight just come up on out of nowhere. So yeah, I do. My goal is to fight bare knuckle MMA one day. Maybe get on Game Bread, or I'd even want to get on Mike Perry's Dirty Boxing. I've asked to get on there. I can probably get on there as well one day. But for me at the minute, obviously just focusing on bare knuckle. Get this European title. Work towards that world title again, and that's the dream. And then once my bare knuckle career's you know in a few years, maybe that's when I look to start doing MMA again. But the reason I left MMA is because I had surgery, and I've got a colostomy bag, so a lot of organisations won't sign me off medically to fight. So I will have to find a way just to secure the bag and stuff like that, just so nothing happens. I don't get a kick to the stomach. But for me, I'll just sign a waiver and just say I'm happy to fight. But yeah, the goal is to fight bare knuckle MMA one day. That's the dream. Or yeah, just something crazy. I do miss MMA.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool to see. Obviously, you have the skill set for it with the bare knuckle and the MMA experience previously. It's kind of cool that you shouted out the dirty boxing opportunity potentially. It seems like there's a lot going on with that promotion, with Mike Perry being in a big ownership capacity, and then the news that just came that John Jones, the UFC heavyweight champion, is now a co-owner of that league. So it seems like they're making some moves.
Yeah, definitely. It's growing and it's growing. I don't think they've had a show in a while, but it's definitely looks exciting. It's entertaining. You can throw elbows. Just a few different rules. I think you can even punch on the ground. I'm not really sure on the rules, but obviously with John Jones coming in now, I think that's just going to take off massive. It's like McGregor coming into BKFC, just going to take it to that next level. So yeah, it's definitely entertaining, and it's up my street.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I guess I'm curious. Maybe I'm just presuming that this might be an important thing for you because I guess this would be like more of a talking point that media types would kind of get into with, Jimmy Sweeney, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, having such a big pedigree in the sport, a multi-weight world champion. Like you can make a case he's one of the best of this era. And I think he even views himself as the best of this modern era, which in a sense you can see why he would make a case just considering the depth of resume. I guess asking in that kind of context, if you get your ideal outcome here and secure the victory in this all important rubber match, like is that something that would really, I guess, be like a big feather in your cap? Like would that really, I guess, galvanize your legacy in this sport? Or do you not really look at things through that particular lens, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's quite intense. It's one apiece, and this rubber match trilogy. It's quite a big deal, and a lot of people have, so excited and they've been excited for years to see this. But for me, I'm not focused on where I want to be, and I don't really, it motivates me, but it don't really give me that, I don't know. I can't really explain it. It's just another day in the office for me. It's just another guy in front of me that I'm going to just take him out, and I just treat him the same as every other fighter. I don't really, I used to look up to him, and when I first joined bare knuckle boxing, Jimmy, it was Jimmy. Everything was Jimmy, and I was visioning just fighting him one day and beating him, and it happened. And then I went and had multiple surgeries, and there's no excuse. I rushed back and I rematched him 9 months after two surgeries. And for me, just getting in the ring was a win. And I had to fight Jimmy Sweeney again, and obviously he prepared to to get that win back from it. Revenge that win back, and he did it in style. And I just want myself in that fight, and everyone knew that was next to me. I was not myself. Obviously, Jimmy trained a lot for that fight, but it's been years on now. Got a good boxing coach, and yeah, this fight's going to be. It's definitely going to show. It's going to show levels now, I think.
Yeah, and it ties so many things together because you even touched on it in the context of Trinidad Snake making those comments that rubbed you a certain way, understandably, just considering the grave nature of how ill you were. And I mean, inspirational that you came back in the way you did so quickly for the Sweeney rematch. But there has to be some component to it as well, where it's like, okay, there's going to be a more, I guess, comprehensively healthy in a relative kind of sense, like in terms of what you're bringing to the table for this trilogy fight. Like, I would imagine you're in much better standing and whatnot, and there's not that component of like rushing back and just wanting to get into the ring right after having overcome such a massive situation there.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not rushing back into this fight. It's not like I've just had surgery, but there's still a lot of problems going on. But listen, I'm a fighter, and what a obstacle. There's never a fight camp I have where it's 100%. There's always something. I was ill before that Austin Trout fight. I was in hospital 10 weeks before that fight, and I was in a bad way. The disease come back, and yeah, I had a lot of issues. A lot of people was worried about you can't fight. I'm like, listen, trust me. I just switch my mindset, and I'll get into a fight zone. And I had a good, literally had 8 weeks of training for that fight, and I performed at an elite level. And it's just a different. I train all year round, so I'm always in shape. I'm never out the gym. Even when I'm ill, I'm just constantly doing a little bit of work. So that consistency pays off in the end. So if I have a few weeks off here and there, it don't make a big difference. I'm just always fit, ready to go.
Yeah, and this is obviously outside of the focus of this Sweeney fight for sure. It's more of just like a fun hypothetical in a sense. But I remember I'd seen this ahead of when you were going to fight Trout and whatnot. This had been like a few months prior to that, even. So I guess mid last year, you had a post where you were saying to Platinum Mike Perry that you'd fight him in his back garden tomorrow if he wanted. You mentioned dirty boxing. Like, is there a preference between fighting him in BKFC or dirty boxing, or just any booking with someone like Platinum Mike Perry would be, I guess, to your liking, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. I like Mike Perry. I like his style. I think he's one tough motherfucker. And who don't want to fight him? I mean, not many people want to fight him, but you would if you're a fighter. You want to fight him just to get a good payday. And it's a massive name. And just I do believe I'll beat him in MMA. No, not MMA. Bare knuckle boxing. Sorry, I believe I'd beat him on BKFC just by speed, accuracy, timing, just in and out, just basics. And I just think I'd wear him down. But obviously, he's a lot bigger than me. But like I said, I'd fight anyone. It would be interesting. It would motivate me.
Yeah, I mean, you're in such a good place. So many, potential opponents and big happenings and everything like that. And I mean, you're no stranger to hardware as well. I saw you had that post a few months ago talking about how winning the BKB world title was just such an incredible experience for you. Just, something that made great memories for life. I would think that if you get your ideal outcome in this one and kind of add one more title to that mantle, in a sense, I would think that would kind of fit comfortably within that same kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, winning this European will be amazing. Obviously, I beat Jimmy Sweeney for the world title on the old show. and then beat Jimmy Sweeney for the European, and then winning the world title against someone else. That would just be yeah, that would be a good accomplishment, and I'll be a great achievement, and I'll be super happy with that, and it will happen one day.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on and everything, and just yeah, so cool to see just what's developing with your career and just even the sport in general and everything like that. And I saw a post on Instagram a little bit ago. I think it was in conjunction with an appearance you were doing on a podcast, and you were talking about how it would be like a cool thing at some point to go on that Joe Rogan experience platform and just talk about your story. And we've even kind of touched on it here, just like the severity of your illness you overcame and all the great things you've been able to do in combat sports, etc. So, I mean, that would definitely be a cool experience. I would think that as you fight in an ever-growing platform like this and have that spotlight on you, I think that could facilitate the potential for something like that to happen, like getting on the Joe Rogan experience and kind of actualizing that goal into reality there.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I've always visioned winning that world title, and then I'll get the call up to go on the Joe Rogan experience, and that would be unbelievable. That's the ultimate goal, just to get on there. And the main reason is to share my journey and share share all my experiences, what I've been through, and trying to help people out that's going through similar kind of situation. And it's a very hard struggle, and the amount of times you want to just give up and throw it away, and the amount of stuff that's gone on. It's people think I'm lying, but it's yeah. What I've put my wife and family through is unbelievable, but they've stuck by me every step of the way, and yeah, I just like to prove to people you just if you don't give up on your dreams and goals, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, my mindset does get me. I'm surprised it hasn't got me killed yet, but yeah, we're doing it a bit smarter now. We're just training smarter, and yeah, it's all good now. But definitely that would be the one.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's always great getting to talk to you and such great insights on so many topics, but also wanting to be mindful of your time and schedule there, Rico. I'd be, curious to see if you had a final parting thought you wanted to add as we're wrapping up here. I appreciate you making the time today.
No worries. Thank you for having me on. It's gonna be a pleasure and honour to fight in on a great card in Italy in Florence, in front of it's the debut in the Italian crowd, and the Italians, they're all fighters. The gladiators. They do the football fighting foot. I can't remember. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it's called, but they play the football and the fight, and they are gladiators. And it's going to be an honour to share the ring with Jimmy Sweeney for the third time in an amazing city like Florence. So yeah, I'm really excited to put on a performance and show the world what I'm about even more.
Yeah, like I said, anyone who has followed the bare knuckle scene knows how massive this fight is. And I feel like it could be a fun sort of surprise for fans who are like very localized to the BKFC product, just in terms of like what both of you bring to the table. So, I mean, I was very stoked for this fight as soon as I saw it was announced. I'll certainly rather be tuning into BKFC 73 on April 26th than checking out this fight, man. So, yeah, thanks so much for coming on Bare Knuckle Bowker, Rico. It's always good getting to chop it up and get some insights from you. All the best in the rest of the training preparations and have a good rest of your day too, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. You're not going to be let down by the fight. I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be let down considering your track record and Jimmy's and even the localized history you guys have. I think it's one of those like fight of the night potential kind of bouts, no doubt.
Definitely, mate. 100%. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Likewise, man. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.